Well, here's a Tiger Cub, and interestingly enough this is one that I don't own. It's been brought here recently for me to do a bit of work on, including well, getting it going for one thing, and I've done that as we've seen, and I've been for a ride on it, but there's still a bit of work to do. There's a slight misfire occasionally, and the clutch slipped a little as well, so I'll have to look into that. Also, it's a bit more clattery than a couple of my Cubs are, so I'll check the valve clearances and so on. But I also need to sort of verify and satisfy myself that the ignition timing is right. Now admittedly, I got the ignition timing set to a point somewhere near where it would run, and then I managed to fine tune it until it ran a lot better. But the trouble with Tiger Cubs and Boyer Branston or similar electronic ignitions, you'll have the basic instructions, which I haven't got here for the Tiger Cub incidentally. I fitted them to other machines and I've got instructions for other kinds of machines, but you'll have, depending on the rotation, you use one hole or the other hole to align either the leading edge of a magnet in some cases, or the little screw through the centre of a magnet lined up with one or other of those holes in the back plate when the piston is at top dead centre. Well, I know I've got this near enough that obviously it runs and it even goes quite well. Now, that's all well and good, but to really sort of fine tune it and set it correctly at full advance, I would need to use a strobe. Unfortunately, I can't do that too easily, as there's no access hole in the primary chain case cover, and obviously no pointer either. So in order to do anything like that, I'd have to take the primary chain case cover off and arrange my own pointer at the appropriate position for full advance in order to strobe the timing and have it correct. Now, it may be that some people will think, well, you've got the instructions for the Boyer, let's just say I had them, and I knew that I'd set it perfectly with the rotor set up perfectly positioned to the opening there. It's that one in the case of this one because it spins anti-clockwise. Yeah, I could get bang on top dead centre and line the little screw up or the leading edge of the magnet with that hole. Oh yeah, the timing would be spot on, wouldn't it? Well, not necessarily. My book's getting wet here. Depends on the model as to what timing you want. It could be 4 degrees before top dead centre, which they call at top dead centre. It could be 8 degrees before top dead centre, or it could be 16 degrees. And that is the static timing. That is, if you had points, that would be where you wanted your points opening at top dead centre. Now the thing is, from the standard road model to the sports model to the trials model, what compression ratio you've got, 7 to 1, 9 to 1, 10 to 1, what camshaft you've got, all manner of things influence the required ignition timing. So you can't just fit an electronic ignition system and line the magnet up with the hole in the back plate and say that you're good to go. The engine will probably start, but the electronic ignition will have a preset and fixed amount of advance curve on it. So it might suit one particular kind of model, but a sports model that needs a lot more advance than a standard one, or perhaps a trials one that needs less, those settings or base settings may not work. And it's vital, really, the most important timing that you want correct is the full advance timing. So you really have to have the engine running and access to a reliable marker to show you how many degrees before top dead centre you're at, or if you want, convert it to piston movement and put a plunger through the plug hole to get a mark to mark it off in the first place. But you can't run the engine with the plunger in the plug hole. So really the only way that you can check and verify that an electronic ignition timing on a Tiger Cub is correct is to strobe it. So that would mean taking the primary chain case cover off and setting up some appropriate markings, as I've said. Unlike if you've got coil and battery and points, you can put a bulb across the points, you can turn the engine until it clicks, you just get a spark, or the bulb will go on or off across the points, and you can gauge the position of your piston. You'd still, to do it by degrees, you would have to have the primary cover off, but you could do it without the engine running, and you can lock a mechanical auto advance onto full advance so that you can set the full advance timing. So overall, I'd say it's a lot easier to time the ignition timing on a Tiger Cub if it's got points ignition. But with this one, I would say from riding it the other day, I'm probably very, very close, but I got the feeling that I might have it a couple of degrees over advanced. So I'll be running it again, I'll be backing the timing off and trying it again with a slightly more retarded setting, and I'm just going to have to do it by the seat of my pants, I think, this one. I think I'll get it, but having an electronic ignition on a Tiger Cub does actually complicate things when you're trying to time them up. And obviously you can only set it the once when you do it, because if ever you have to take that magnetic rotor off for any reason, there's no keyway or peg or anything, so you've got to start from scratch again every time that's disturbed. Not that you tend to need to disturb it too often, of course, but it's just worth bearing in mind that Tiger Cubs with electronic ignitions on them, there may be quite a few of them going around that aren't quite timed to perfection, perhaps, and worth keeping in mind.